after a landslide while they were working on a road tunnel.
Everything's going badly. The tunnel is continuing to collapse. There's a helicopter waiting for me, and they ask me if I can come. Of course I say yes.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Arnold Dix. Yes, and I'm the president of the International Tunnelling and Underground Space Association.
I knew how this story normally ends. I knew that without something truly extraordinary happening, 41 men wouldn't be coming home, and probably we'd be getting hurt.
Are you confident about rescue, sir?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to rescue these men, and there's no one else going to be hurt, and that's the mission.
It was his cheerful nature and his confidence that has become the hope of both rescuers and rescued.
Rescue crews managed to feed a specialist medical camera down a pipe.
Live rescues aren't my thing. I've always been involved in either recovering bodies, lessons learned, trying to understand how we ended up with the dead ones, but normally they're not alive.
They have to dig 103 metres to reach them.
This time, we've got 41 live ones. So the epic begins with the stage set with everything to lose. No one really knows what I do, and I'd never minded that. It kind of suited me. And certainly in Monbulk, no one would have a clue what I do. Because what does it matter? I just want people to know me as Arnold. I am, without doubt, the worst farmer in Monbulk. I mean, I wasn't home for 40 weeks last year, so it's not surprising.
Arnold lived in town a long time, but he sort of kept a fairly low profile. I didn't really realise till he was on the TV, and then I thought, hang on a minute, I know that bloke.
The birds got a few.
And I think the town was a little bit shocked of what he did.
Depending who you want me to be, I'm Arnold Dix the barrister. I'm Arnold Dix scientist, professor of engineering, truck driver. And I'm a flower farmer. Who do you want me to be?
By the time Arnold arrived, our earlier attempts for the rescue were not successful. There was a sense of pessimism at the site.
This specific site, Uttarakashi, Silkyara, where they were constructing this highway, holds special meaning for not just the local people living there, but for the entire nation, because they believe that land is the land where gods and goddesses used to reside.
The people believe this mountain has its own god, and their view was we have an unhappy, awakening god of the mountain. So I must kneel before this temple because this is the right thing to do.
Arnold at site, he was everywhere. He was inside the tunnel, he was over the mountains, he was deep into jungles, he was in the meeting with the top management, he was with the rescuers, he was with the media.
And yes, he did become the face of the operation. He was the one who everyone was going to for answers.
How long will it take for the rescuers to safely rescue?
Before I rescue you, I've got your arm. It's going to take... Yeah, I've got you. Hang on. Are you right? Yeah, okay. This is good. So how long... Yeah.
When I went in, what I saw immediately was evidence of 21 prior collapses in the zone between the entrance to the tunnel and the place of the collapse. These tunnels are prone to collapse, and I've seen video footage of it collapsing near here, and it's even worse where there's water. So we've got the risk that we're going to cause a catastrophic collapse and either bury the men or drown the men.
The works are being done for the augering for the evacuation tunnel.
From the time I was a very small child, I have been taught to listen to the rock. So I went into the tunnel and I listened to that mountain, and I stick my hand in the rock and I push my back up against the wall and I sit quietly and just see, hear, feel what I can see, hear, feel. And I felt an unstable mountain, but I also felt it wasn't time for it to collapse yet.
Arnold was definitely the right man for the tunnel rescue in India, because he brings all his skills in his toolkit that he's amassed over the last 30 years and his ability to process things quickly and find a way through where others just see despair. Point of view with your dad.
He's looking pretty interested in me. It's probably, what's that? Goodness.
Here's one. Ready?
Nice.
Young Arnold, how much time have we got? Well, yes, free spirit, good kid. I used to wonder where it would all end, and here we are. Arnold, from an early age, he was fascinated with rocks. I'd be driving along, I'd have to stop, Mum, stop. He'd run and he'd get a rock, which to me was a rock, and he'd say, "This rock is so old." Really different sort of a kid.
Work continues around the clock. One tunnel shift follows another. Men and machines against the granite of the mountains.
So my interest in geology starts as a young child in Jindabyne. A number of the old-timers off the Snowy scheme were still there. They'd never left.
This is indeed the place where men and mountains meet.
I'm a hotel keeper's kid, and so as a little kid who liked rocks, who's also getting their beer and then talk to them and they say, "Hey, do you want to come? We'll show you." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So they would take me to see some of the tunnels, and then that sort of infected me. My first degree was science, and I loved doing my science, geology and the geomorphology. My postgrad research has me up at the Range Uranium Mine. The trouble was I was a bit too brutally honest, and I had a go at a mining company. I then had a go at the Office of the Supervising Scientist, and I had a go at the environmentalists. So in one fell swoop, I'd made enemies with everybody. And they pulled me to one side and they explained to me that if I continued to be publicly critical in the way that I was, I would not have a job as a scientist in Australia. I didn't shut up, but I decided I was going to do law because I thought I might need a lawyer.
Arnold joined the firm in 1988, and Arnold was a bit of a revelation. A little bit odd, a little bit weird, a little bit left of centre, dresses quite differently, has quite an interesting attitude.
My office, near reception, I quickly equipped with what would now be called hydroponics. So I developed my own vegetable garden, and it was really cool, actually.
And he also hooked up a means whereby he could sit at his office chair and open the door and close the door via a pulley system, so he didn't need to get up.
Being an environmental lawyer back then was new, and traditional lawyers could never see me coming because I understood the science and the engineering, and so I could frame arguments that they'd never even thought of.
I first met him in 1992 when he was briefed as what we call a baby barrister. They were having difficulty getting him supported because he basically broke his secretaries and they left, and he'd had 4 in 18 months. Law firms in those days billed in 6-minute intervals, and Arnold was always so busy that the thought of actually having to sit down and write what he did every 6 minutes was just never going to happen. So that was part of my role, to know what he did every 6 minutes of the day so that we could capture that. He went from their worst billing partner to their highest billing partner in 12 months.
I've always had this burning feeling about what's fair and what's not fair. I've never seen it as a complicated thing. The frustration for me as a lawyer is you provide disproportionate justice for those people who can afford you. And the turning point for me was when I'd gone to Ground Zero in New York. When I arrived, there's still smoke coming up. The whole place is on high alert. People are walking around in the streets with pictures of their loved ones, all that sort of stuff. And I was investigating what had happened in the tunnels underneath.
The subterranean search of the 6 floors beneath the World Trade Center is haunting. This team from Miami is tracing subway lines, looking for people who might have taken refuge when the Twin Towers were hit.
And suddenly it hits me, wouldn't it be better to have a life where I helped many people a little, even if they don't know me, than to help a few because they've got the money to pay?
And when he came back, he was quite changed. And that disaster element then became a focus for the practice moving forward, being the eyes and ears for others that can't go after there's been a disaster.
Tonight, the Waterfall train disaster. 9 dead after a commuter train jumps the tracks and crashes into a rock face.
In 2003, I was asked to advise on the Waterfall train crash. Train going too fast, doesn't go round a bend, rolls over, kills people. I'm actually doing the investigation straight away.
This is the devastating result of the massive pile-up this morning.
2007 Burnley Tunnel incident. My job there is to try and understand, did the tunnel cause the deaths? So I established myself as an expert in the area of underground fire and life safety. And because of that, I become well known in the fire engineering circles for all complex built structures. Qatar was in the middle of preparing for the World Cup, and their airport isn't able to open because the fire and life safety engineering is failing. So in 2013, I get a call, Arnold, can you come to Qatar and can you fix our airport for us? And that becomes a journey of more than 8 years in Qatar, because what I find in Qatar is not what I expect.
While arguments rage over the risks footballers will face playing in Qatar's extreme heat, migrant workers are dying on the job in record numbers.
Arnold stumbled onto thousands of migrant workers being employed as slave labour, having had their passports removed, visas made invalid, not being paid and starving. He helped them with housing, food, helped many people actually exit the country. They needed hope and he provided some of that.
The 14th of June 2017.
Help up there! You're a nice kid.
A fire that starts on the 4th floor of the Grenfell Tower spreads quickly, fuelled by combustible cladding.
The Grenfell Tower block fire, I'm heavily involved with that, and that's on a pro bono basis. Getting justice for low socioeconomic people. It's a tunnel in the sky as opposed to a tunnel in the ground, but the principle's the same.
Arnold would always be overseas, but we never had really any idea of what he was actually doing while he was over there. But Puffin Billy is local to where Arnold lives, so when the unthinkable happened, he quietly came back to the country to assist us.
One person was injured in a crash between the Puffing Billy steam train and a minibus at Menzies Creek today.
He worked with our engineers, and over the few years it took, was able to establish safer seating on our sills.
I came up with a new idea, a new solution that allows children of all ages to sit on the side of the train. And it's probably my best work.
Hang on.
So now when I see all the people on the side of the train, shrieking, terrified, all those sorts of things, I get a huge amount of joy.
Arnold reminds me of the Nutty Professor in a very loving way. You know, the kindest, craziest person I've ever met. And we couldn't have done this without him.
That's my signature dish. You never saw me come, you don't know what I did, and the job's done right, and I'm gone again. Because of my work, I travel the whole world. I visit all countries, all continents. I'm driven by the desire to help the many with their safety.
He's so driven, he would actually sell his mother if he thought the cause justified it, and just look out anyone that's around him, because he will just sacrifice you. No two ways about it if he thinks the cause is bigger than you.
And so I'm not a normal husband. I don't just do the lawns and wash the car. I've been married twice. Married to Karen, firstly, and that lasted 23 years, so not a fickle thing. But then I've worked for nearly 10 years in the Middle East, and it was there that I met Davina.
When you're in the Middle East, usually most men, they're really like dressed up, wearing like gold and big watch or necklace and driving a very good Porsche cars. But he's just the normal one, like just so simple, down to earth.
We got on so well, we're married. So it was that simple. 2020, COVID hits, and my wings are chopped off. I'm international man of mystery, and suddenly there's international removed. I'm just man of mystery, and I'm in Monbulk, and I'm trapped in my little sanctuary.
We had an A-frame sign out for a truck driver, and then this bloke comes in, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, we'll see how we go here.
Not a lot of trucking companies want to employ a barrister to be their truck driver. They're a bit scared of that. So I had to get my CV, and I had to chop everything off after I got high school done.
Arnold would help load the trucks, and then he would drive around Melbourne to different nurseries and transport companies to drop things off. I started asking a few questions, and then by the end of it I was just convinced that there was nothing this bloke couldn't do. And if he couldn't do it, he'd work out how to do it and just do it anyway.
It's much smaller than I remember. Yeah. I'm not sure how to describe my dad to other people. Yeah. But I think eccentric would come into it, but in a really eccentric version of eccentric. He doesn't fit the normal template for what a dad is, but he's much more colourful.
It's really important for me to have my back against the wall, hand into the rock, under the collapse, and then just listen.
The influence from my dad has always been very prevalent. Since I was about 5 or 6, Dad's been bringing me down tunnels, and my brothers as well. So it's inspired me to sort of pursue something quite similar. We're like twins. I'm just really proud of my dad. Don't know how to describe him, but I just love him to bits.
In late August 2023, I decide I'm going to have a world tour of the state of underground construction technology in extreme environments. And just in the minutes before I depart, I grab a pair of boots at the door, and the pair of boots that I grab aren't my boots. I actually take Hannah's boots by mistake, and Hannah's boots become really significant in the rescue.
Well, efforts to rescue more than 40 workers trapped in a collapsed tunnel in India has continued for the 10th day.
Hannah's boots don't fit me, and so Hannah's boots, the boots I walk in, remind me with each step that I'm there to rescue 41 children from other families.
I have a daughter who's also a minor, okay? So I treat all of those 41 as if they are my daughter trapped.
So it was day 10 of the rescue operations when they finally, had a breakthrough. They were finally able to see the 41 people inside.
We get to be able to put warm food in for the first time, but we also get to see the state of the tunnel on their side, and it's collapsing. When I go up on top of the mountain and have a look, the rock's bad.
This is the rock. Right, and it's through a zone like this that we've had the collapse. So this is the sort of material. I like that.
It's exactly the sort of rock I fear the most. Someone snaps a picture of me telling the group that in my view, we have a problem, that the whole thing's going to come down. So the risk was that we would have a subsequent collapse on both us and on them. As a precaution, I was contacting people near and dear to me and just having conversations with them. I wasn't telling them that was the reason, so I just sent them a text, "Hi, how are you? You know, how's things?" whatever, and just have an exchange. It wasn't that I was planning to be killed, but I just felt that it'd be good for them, if something bad happened, to have a memory of me not being too stressed.
He video called and then he said, "Sweetie, don't worry, I'm okay. Look at the chair. That's my chair. That's where I sit. And then the tunnel is just over there. So don't worry, I'm just watching them and then I'm telling them what to do." The next day he said, "But in the news it says that you're inside. And then you're telling me you never go inside."
And then I'd say, "Oh, maybe I go in there every now and then." And so she knows that I'm up to no good, in the sense that I'm putting my life at risk.
I knew, and Davina knew, that it was extremely dangerous because you could see that the mountain was unstable, and I was just hoping that he was going to be okay.
This arduous mission encountered a fresh challenge on Friday as the relentless machines aiding the rescue ground to a halt.
These 41 workers, they had been waiting for weeks, and then news starts coming out that no, they've stopped operations because, something went wrong. Something's broken down.
The drilling, the augering has stopped.
Yeah.
It's too much for the auger, okay?
Okay.
It's like our auger is it's not going to do anything more.
And that's when they were like, okay, machines are not working anymore. What do we do?
My suggestion is that we have a choice between fast and slow, we go slow. If we have a choice between hard and soft, we go soft. That actually we try and trick the mountain and sneak in to get these men.
What Arnold was doing had massive consequences. He could either end up being the god that they would always remember, or he was going to end up having, and I'm not exaggerating here, he was going to end up having statues of himself being burnt.
Of course, it was a stressful moment. Based on the advice of Arnold, we changed our strategies, reviewed our rescue operations.
So what we did was we sent people in the pipe to excavate by hand the rocks, rock by rock, and put them in a little cart that we made on site and wheel it out. We actually went back to the very, very early ways human beings would burrow through the ground, and so it's the softly approach. And that's the approach that wins.
There have been jubilant scenes in India after a group of construction workers trapped inside a collapsed tunnel for 17 days were finally freed, alive and well.
This was the moment the first of 41 trapped workers was finally freed after spending more than 2 weeks underground.
And you remember in the beginning I said 41 people home safe, no one gets hurt by Christmas. Christmas has come early.
Somehow we made the promise come true, and we showed the world that good people working together can do the impossible.
For the villagers too, it's a moment of joy as they finally get the good news and they don't have to spend another night in uncertainty.
And so we're seeing these 41 workers being reunited with their families, the entire nation looking at these happy moments. But the one thing that was odd was no one knew where Arnold was. He was nowhere, he had disappeared.
I went to the top of the mountain with some of the rescue workers to the big temple, and we gave thanks up there. So we were having the best party and they were all singing. Anyway, they made Arnold Dick songs, which I thought was really kind of funny. And the boys decided to put on a bit of a dance show up on the tree. That video, apparently, in India, has had more than 100 million hits.
He was all over everywhere in India, on the TV, on people's smartphones, on their tabs. I don't think there are many people in India who wouldn't recognize Arnold.
I rise to acknowledge a truly great Australian, Professor Arnold Dix, and for what he has done, these 41 lives have been saved, families have been reunited, and our friends in India are quite rightly rejoicing.
During rescue operations, he became a friend, and after rescue operations, he has become a part of family.
How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling tired. I finally get to the airport, quite unexpected, on my flight, completely by accident, are 17 of the men that I've rescued.
Thank you, sir.
And they're just young men who just doing their job, who just go to work to look after their families, and they're from poor states, and they've got exactly the faces of the dead ones that I've pulled out of other countries, and we've rescued them.
Yeah, we'll get.
And so they get to live the rest of their lives without dying in the tunnel. And so, it was worth it. My little town of Monbulk, it's as unknown as I am, except for its jam. Monbulk turns on a big welcome.
All of a sudden there was Welcome Home Professor Dix all through the town, and I think the first time I saw him I just screamed out of the ute, "Good on you, mate!"
Maybe you bring your shoulder a little inside so that you don't have to turn so much, yes.
So until this point in my life, I was absolutely satisfied to be completely unknown in my own right. Happy for my own deeds to be unknown.
Right now the light's perfect.
And next minute, I'm here getting painted.
I wanted to show Arnold in a way that people don't know him, the true Arnold. Arnold, I read in one of these articles about you, they called you a nerd, right? And it's repeated again and again. Just on his t-shirt and his shorts, but he's ready with his gear to go wherever he needs. I hope I've done enough justice on this. He is a superhero in India as well as other places all around the world. There you go. So I kind of depict him as a superhero as well.
It's just wonderful.
Things have been a little different in that we now have Arnold the hero. He always thought he was a hero anyway. So for me, it's actually not a whole lot new.
To help save 41 young Indian men, what does a man do after that? Like, what do you do? I don't know what you do after that. That's like, I don't know. Let's see.